Hello, my name is Heather Giovanetti. I would like to begin by asking, how much do you know about GMOs? Did you know that GMO researchers are currently researching how to help America with the food problem that could be in our very near future? With all the current labeling of non-GMO foods we see in our supermarket today, a lot of us see GMOs as a negative thing. But how much do we really know about the processes that go into creating GMOs? I believe that GMO research should continue to be available to our society because they have proven to be an asset by helping to battle climate change, agricultural issues, and food shortages in an increasingly populated world. There is a lot of misinformation about GMOs, so I would like to explain the definition of GMOs and talk a little bit about their process and background. In addition, I will explore some of the misinformation surrounding the topic of GMOs. I would also like to discuss how the labeling of foods as non-GMO would affect us. I'll touch upon how GMOs will influence the future of food in America. Lastly, I would like to discuss the positive benefits GMOs present to us and our society. A lot of newspapers and magazines today talk about GMOs, but a lot of us don't even know what GMO stands for. GMO is an acronym for genetically modified organism. The process of creating genetically modified foods is a lot more technical. And in an article called We Are Growing Safe Food, A Very Serious Responsibility in 2016, they describe it as a crop that has one or two genes added or taken away to create a special trait. And in that same article, they talk about how there's only 9 GMOs available to us today, which are corn, cotton, canola, alfalfa, potatoes, papaya, soybeans, sugar beets, and summer squash. So why do people feel that GMOs are unsafe? Well, I believe that a lot of that has to do with the misinformation we get from the media. In an article called GMO Foods as Safe as Conventional Choices in 2016, they compared diseases like diabetes and cancer with people that eat GMO foods and people that don't eat GMO foods. And they found no less difference at all. And Madeline Ostrander in 2014 talked about how conventional breeding of crops poses no less health risk than those that are genetically modified. John Hibma in 2015 said that centuries of crossbreeding and hybridization have already caused all of our crops to be unnatural. So we have to look at what would happen if we had no more GMOs. An article by Brian Hembry in 2016 said that if we had no more GMOs, that our greenhouse gases would begin to rise and more forest would have to be turned into cropland as our population begins to rise. Labeling has also caused quite a concern in the GMO movement. Some argue that labeling makes people believe that they are unsafe. An article by John Hibma in 2015 says that the differences between GMO and non-GMO varieties is the presence of a protein or DNA, and the majority of time that is purified or refined out. An article called GMOs Your Right to Know in 2015 said that if we continue to have the mandatory labels on our foods, that the prices of our food will rise because non-GMO foods are more expensive to create, and so therefore the prices of those would rise. Madeline Ostrander in 2014 talked about the impact that labels will have, and that scientists are finding that it's hard to get funding now for their GMO research because of this labeling movement. And if the scientists are unable to get their funding, that means that farmers aren't going to be able to get the crops to produce these foods. And as our population rises to 9.5 billion in 2050, then it's going to be harder to put food on our table. So how can we benefit from GMOs? It's been seen that the climate change has gotten worse, and our extreme weather has caused a lot of problems. In an article by Madeline Ostrander in 2014, says that we are creating crops that can better withstand extreme weather. And in that same article talks about something that Monsanto produces called Drought Guard. And this is corn that can better withstand dry weather. An article by John Hibman in 2015 talks about how they're producing crops that are that ward off insects and that also are more resilient when they get herbicides put on them. An article called GMOs Your Right to Know in 2014 talks about a potato that's being produced that doesn't bruise as easy, and it also takes away a carcinogen that is present when potatoes are cooked at a high temperature, like potato chips. So that carcinogen is being eliminated from potatoes. And all of these ways is how they can benefit our society. In summary, GMOs have long been a part of our society. I believe that our quality of life is dependent upon keeping GMOs in our society. As our population grows and climate change continues to worsen, GMOs will be essential in keeping a steady supply of food for our country. We need to keep the misinformation at a minimum so Americans can better understand what scientists are trying to accomplish. We as consumers must look deeper into what labeling means to us in terms of money, as well as the possible implications on GMO research. In conclusion, I feel GMO research must continue and GMOs should be available to us because the future of our food sources depend upon it. Thank you.